Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to VOC exclusive interview program. Tonight, we have a special guest. We want to welcome Mr. Siang Lian Sang, the community leader, senior attorney of Office of Chief Counsel at Internal Revenue Services, IRS. Please, Mr. Siang Lian Sang, could you please introduce yourself? We want to know your early life and your background a little bit.
Thank you for having me, Alvin. As you said, my name is Siang. I was born in Hakka, Chin State, and I mainly grew up in Sakta. And also, I spent some years in Hakka as well as Yangon before coming to the United States to join my father with the rest of the family. As you introduced me in the beginning, I now work for the IRS at the Office of Chief Counsel. Basically, we're the lawyer for the Internal Revenue Service. And outside of work, I volunteer in the community, in the Chin community, as well as the local community where I live in Bedford, Texas. I have a wife and two young, handsome boys. So that's about me. We currently live in the Dallas-Fort area.
Thank you so much, sir. For those of us who doesn't understand the background of IRS, can you please explain a little bit of your career and your leadership role as well?
Sure. So before I say anything about work or anything, I should throw out a little disclaimer. I just want to say that anything that I say tonight, they are my own personal opinions, and they do not represent the views or positions of my employer or any organizations that I'm a part of. With that said, as an attorney for the IRS, we basically represent the United States before the U.S. tax court. Usually when we come in, a taxpayer has some sort of dispute with the government. For example, they don't disagree that they owe a certain amount of taxes, or that they're asking for a refund from the government, and they were not able to resolve their differences with IRS personnel, and they have a right to fight their case before a court. And so they file a petition with the court, and that's where we come in and we try to basically resolve the differences between the government and the taxpayers.
Such a lawyer thing to say. You have the disclaimer.
Well, I have to throw that out.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So, what inspired you to be in a law firm? If you have a specific moment or the individuals during your career who inspire you to this path, the leadership or the legacy of your career?
So after college, I worked for a non-profit organization here in Fort Worth, Texas. It's called Catholic Charities. And my job was to help refugees and immigrants from all over the world find employment. And it was during the Great Recession. And working with immigrants and local employers, I realized that once I was able to help my clients get employment, if they encounter problems or have issues with the US legal system or the police, I could no longer help them. And so that was very frustrating. I also saw the injustice that I saw within our community because of a lack of understanding, a lack of education, and just a lack of ability to navigate the system here in the US. So I wanted to go to law school so that I can help my community in some way, somehow. So that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to go to law school. Before that, I never thought that I was going to be a lawyer. In college, I never considered becoming a lawyer. So my journey to become a lawyer started after working at Catholic Charities. And the second reason is I wanted to do something that no other Burmese from my community in the Dallas-Fort area were able to achieve, basically, because like in our community, when somebody does start a business or they start something, everybody starts copying, right? And so, let's say even selling Chin traditional clothing online, one person starts and like 10 other people start copying, and there's, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I was kind of selfish that I wanted to do something and achieve something that no not many people in my community would be able to achieve easily, basically copy me. So that's another reason, selfish reason, I should say.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. I want to talk about the role at the IRS. So currently, you are a senior attorney at the IRS, correct?
Yes.
So, what have been some of your most impactful cases or initiatives? How do you view your role in supporting immigrant communities through your work?
One of the most rewarding experience as an employee for the IRS has been to mentor new attorneys and legal assistants where I work, because I am passionate about teaching others to do their job better, to be a better employee or a person within the community, and that applies to our Chin community as well. Through my work, just to give you a little bit of background, as you know, there are not that many Chin lawyers in the United States. Even Burmese, there are just, you can count them, in our fingers, because we recently met and decided to form Burmese American Lawyers Association. And even, I mean, there are other Burmese lawyers in the U.S., but there's just a few of us. People call me from all over the US. I don't even know, like 80 to 90% of them. I've never met them. I've never seen them. And somehow they got a hold of my phone number and called me. And, I, as, as an attorney working for the United States government, I cannot give legal advice. But what I can offer is to help, to listen to people and basically to explain the system. Basically, it's not giving advice, but explaining, for instance, how to hire an attorney or which type of attorney they need, based on the situations that they describe. And sometimes it can be frustrating because our communities, they don't know the system very well. They still act and operate as they did in Burma. But when I talk to them, that gives me a chance to explain to them, things that they should know, that they should follow, and also things that they, probably should avoid, without giving them legal advice. And through my work, even though I cannot help our community members solve their legal issues, I can help them in other ways. And so those have been very meaningful, and it made me, I think, a better person and also a better lawyer in my career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes like when we have to get a lawyer, we don't even know what kind of what type of lawyer we need. It's very crucial. It's very important too. So yeah, do you really get that main point corrected? So I want to talk about your the education experience. So we noticed that you were in Texas A&M University before you went to oh well, it is a law school, and then you moved to Boston, Massachusetts, correct? So if you can talk us about through your the studies that you have in Texas A&M and also in University in Boston.
Sure. So I'll start with my college education. I actually received my bachelor degree from the University of Massachusetts in Boston back in 2007. And as I said earlier, after getting my bachelor degree, I came back to the Dallas area, which is where my family is, and worked there for a few years. And once I decided to go to law school, I applied to several law schools in the area as well as outside of Texas. And I ultimately ended up studying and graduating from Texas A&M University School of Law, which, by the way, is one of the best law schools in the country. And just to throw it out there, you know, law school was pretty tough. I'm not sure if you're going to ask this, but um, being a first generation immigrant and not knowing that many other lawyers, and I realized later that I was actually the second Chin lawyers or person to graduate from law school. A lady in Indianapolis actually beat me by 1 year. She graduated before a year before I did. But it was a tough journey at times. I wanted to give up, and but you know I persevere and ultimately graduated from law school, and that's why when other Chin young college students or young people, when they express interest in law school, I try to do my best to be a mentor and to guide them, and hopefully avoid the mistakes that I made, so that they can get into law school successfully.
On that, with the perseverance, the reluctant, all of those, how would you want to advise for the youths who wants to pursue in law career today?
So, as some of your audience may know that in the U.S., in order to get into law school, you have to have a bachelor degree first. Law is a professional degree here in the United States. So after you receive your bachelor degree, then you have to take a test in order to get into law school. There are over 200 law schools in the United States, and the usual, like some of the better known law schools are like Harvard and Stanford, Yale, etc. But there are other many law schools that are very decent, that are very good. In order to get into the better, well-known law schools, a person has to score very high on the LSAT, which is an entrance exam that is required to get into law school. And what I would advise our young Chin Americans is, if you want to be a lawyer, to pursue a career in law, then you need to study seriously for the LSAT. Maybe also get tuition, attend tuition, so that somebody else will teach you how to take the test, the LSAT test. There's been some changes, like I think they took out the logic games, which were very difficult when I took the LSAT. Once you pass that test and you receive a score high enough, then you have to submit like personal essays, and there's a bunch of other documents that you have to submit to law schools that you're interested in. And so once you get accepted into law school, then after you finished it, you still have to take a test, an exam, a license to become a lawyer. So there are many, many steps, but the main thing is you have to prepare for the LSAT. And I would also highly encourage Chin American young Chin Americans that are interested in becoming lawyers to become better writers, because law, I know, in our community, people think it's all about arguing. That's not what we do, actually. Even if we do that, it's mostly on paper. You have to write well. You have to write English well in order to be a successful lawyer. I mean, that's generally true in every other aspects of life, but especially in law, even if you are really smart, if you don't know how to write well, then it's going to be hard for you to be successful. And a lot of even within our community, I know some people, they're very smart, but they don't want to go to law school because their writing skill is not up to task.
I want to ask you about the law degrees. For those of us, for the audience and myself, can you please explain about the degree in law, what fields we have, and what are the levels of the law degrees?
Sure. So as I said before, law is JD is a professional degree, just like MD is. In the U.S., there are basically three different types of law degrees. One is JD, Juris Doctor, which is what you need to get to become a lawyer for the most part, and then that's 3 years. And you have to take an LSAT. The entrance requirements are very tough, and it's very hard to get into one of the best law schools in the U.S. There's also an LLM, Masters in Law. An LLM is mostly geared towards foreign trained lawyers, like people from Burma or from other countries who are lawyers, and they want to uh, pursue some sort of law-related career in the U.S. And it's also mainly for people that want to specialize in a particular field. So, for instance, once somebody has a JD degree and they want to become a practitioner in the tax field, tax law field, then some people would take an LLM in tax law. Other than that, it's just it's not a degree that most lawyers in the U.S. Need in order to become lawyers. The other degree, and also LLMs are there's no requirement, basically no test to enter the program, so it's a lot easier. And a lot of law school, you'll see that most of the students are from out of the country, from foreign countries. The other degree is an SJD, which is not taken by that many people, but basically it's a terminal like PhD degree, and some people take it so that they can teach. But most of the law professors in the US are JDs. They don't need another degree. And most law schools don't hire SJD because they usually hire only people who have a JD. So SJD primarily for academic, not necessarily to become law professors. Some take it for research purposes. So those are the difference between the three degrees.
So you served in a leadership roles in the Chin Youth organization from, I believe, 2014 to 2021, including as a president. So how would you describe the state of Chin youth in the United States today? How can the Chin diaspora and youth in Chinland bridge their differences to rebuild and strengthen Chinland? Because it's such an important question.
Yes, I agree. Thanks for asking me that question. You know, as a young immigrant community in the United States, our community has gone through and is going through all of the challenges that past communities like Vietnamese and Koreans and other communities have gone through. And many within our community have spoken about this, and that is that there's a generation gap between the old and the young. A lot of our young people, unfortunately, have fallen through the cracks because of the way our community is. You know, our parents are not many of them are educated. A lot of our parents fled Burma because of wars, because of the economic situation, and when they came to the U.S., you know, they have to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs to support family members, and sometimes when that happens, our children tends to get lost, and unfortunately, I don't think that a lot of our young Chin Americans are not fulfilling their fullest potential as they could, even though hundreds, maybe even thousands of Chin Americans are graduating from high school in Indiana, in Texas, Georgia, Maryland, all over the U.S. The college going rate, I know the Burmese American Institute at one time said it was pretty high, maybe in Indianapolis, but the graduation rate and from that, translating that to professional career has not been what I wanted to see. And I think So in terms of education and translating that to integrating into the professional careers in the US, we have not been able to catch up to other community members in the US. And one of the reasons for that, I think, is because there's a lack of professional networking within our community and from our Chin young people. In America, they have a saying, it's who you know that gets you the job, right? In Burma, it's also who you know, but mostly if you have money, you can basically buy your way in. It's very true here in America as well. If you know people, if you network, then chances are higher that you're going to get a job. Because we were not taught that skill, or because we didn't learn it by ourselves, a lot of our young people, they just graduated. They go through high school, they go through college without making meaningful connections, making networking a priority. And so even if they graduate from college, they are not pursuing professional careers that I think we should be pursuing more. So I see that a lot in our community, and also, unfortunately, because we come from a poor country, and because of our family situation, I think a lot of them are attracted to making money, and so once they finish high school, unfortunately, a lot of them go into business, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think people should pursue a livelihood, but when you're young, like when you're 18 or 19. I think you should enjoy life and also go to school so that you can actually better yourself when you actually go into the workforce, either it's into business or other areas of life. But I'm hopeful, and to finally get back to your question, I'm hopeful that our young people, even though there are many that have fallen through the cracks, there are also many that are succeeding despite many obstacles and becoming successful professionals, successful business people in this country. And when you talk about bridging that gap between even from Chinland, other areas in like Australia or the US, I think technology has made that a lot easier. I know even religious institutions are also making an effort now, like CBC USA, going back to, I think they call it Chinland Project, which allows us to connect not only through technology, but also in person, to the people that are fleeing Chin State to Mizoram, India.
Yeah, that's very true. The connection, the network is very important. So would you say they should start be like looking into those while they were in school?
Absolutely. So, when somebody's going through college, it's not enough just to get A's in college, because you're competing with thousands of people from all over the country, and even from Europe and all over the world that have really high marks. You have to set yourself apart. You have to distinguish yourself from others. We're not just competing within our community. We're competing with the best and brightest in America. And so in order to get ahead of other people, you definitely need to make friends, network. Going to school and getting high grades is important, but half, maybe 50% spend your time on that, and 50% making connections, networking, making friends with friends in college, your classmates, or doing internships or externships, or volunteering at an organization that interests you. Even if you have to work part-time, which I did when I went to college. I worked part-time, and also was able to do internship and all that. So it is something that is doable. If you don't do that, it's going to be hard to compete, especially now with the AI revolution. It's not just enough to go to a great school and have high marks. You have to do something to distinguish yourself.
Correct, correct. Very true, very true. I want to talk to you about your memoir that you wrote while you were in the university. So, what inspired you to write those memoir, and how do you hope they contribute to preserving and promoting Chin heritage for future generations?
So I actually I wrote two books in Lai Hol in Hakka Chin, and the first one that I self-published is called Hakka Diary. It's available on Amazon, and I that book is basically about my experience while I was in Hakka in 2000, from 2000, August 2014 to January 2015. Right after law school, I decided to go back to Burma and specifically to Hakka and volunteer. And so I was a visiting professor at Chin Christian University in Hakka. I taught English, writing, introduction to business law. I think those are three subjects that I taught. So I spent teaching at CCU, and I also travel a lot to the small villages near Hakka, Tandlang, and Phalam. And during our break, I also travel extensively to Manly, Dangji, Inle, Paganyang, that area. And so you know, when you go to a certain place, if you are just a tourist and you just spend a few days there and you don't meet the locals, you don't really know what the people are going through, or what life is like in that community. Spending 6 months traveling in Chin State and also in central Burma allowed me to see, what people were like in that time. It was during the Thein Sein government, and I was, even though they were transitioning to democracy, what I saw was just democracy in name only, because whenever I try to do certain things, you still have to bribe the officials. And the officials are, even though they're no longer wearing a military uniform, they were former generals. And so, I in practice, I saw that, and I was not, it was just a dressing up basically. What I also saw was just the system. The system is so corrupt that it's going to be hard to fix unless the whole system is taken down. And especially traveling from Paganyang to Dangji, I saw a lot of poverty, and so a lot of ethnic Burman that are very poor. I saw people working, basically using their hand tools to break rocks, to lay rocks on the street, on the road, on the highway. This was in 2014. You don't see that in the U.S. or in developed countries. So, I guess we'll get to this eventually, but that seeing that opened my eyes, and it allowed me to see that sometimes we see the Burman as the enemy or other people, but it allowed me to see that they're just ordinary people. Most of them, they're very poor, just like most of us in Chin State. And I wrote all of that in Hakka Diary. It's in Lai Hol. Unfortunately, I didn't think about writing that in English, and so that one was self-published after I came back to the U.S. And then there was another Lung Dok Nak Apin Leya, which translates as Beyond Hope would be an accurate translation, I guess.
Yeah, very close.
That
Yeah.
one, yeah, that book basically is about, like, I used to blog when I was in college, starting in college, and so I took out what I thought were the most important ones, and it just describes all the challenges that I encountered during my college, when I started working and through law school, and put that in a book format. It was both the books are mostly for me, but if people find encouragement and are encouraged by reading those books, that would be awesome. That's my goal.
Mm. Yeah, because it was a couple of years ago, but however, I think it will still be relatable to our situation, current situation, because it's still there's you can see a lot of gaps in between. So, would you like because of we have so many gaps, but can you talk about those gaps that we can bridge those together, and how would you compare those gaps that you experience from Burma to Chin youth we have in America?
So what I saw, my experience teaching at CCU and my travels throughout Burma, I was surprised and also not surprised at the same time. I was surprised because I saw a lot of our Chin young people in Chin State and also in Yangon and in other parts of Burma that are very advanced. They love and watch the same movies that we watch in America. They can now, or at that time, they were now able to basically listen and experience the same technologies. And some of them spoke English better than some of the people in Dallas, some of the Chin people. And I was very encouraged, and I was surprised and inspired by that because here in America sometimes because we are an immigrant community, this is sometimes even the people that are born here, we still feel like an outsider. And so I think sometimes that could potentially put a limit, or we put self-limit on us in our everyday lives when we go to work or school. But they don't have that in Burma because that's our country. That's where they were born. And so I was very surprised and encouraged to see that. Also, because of the system that I talk about, I still saw a lot of the same thing that we fled when we came to America, which is even at school, people still sometimes cheat. So for example, I would give them an essay to write, and at first I was very trusting of them, and it turns out that the essay that they gave me was from a booklet I discovered. And so I wised up, and next time I administered a test, it was in class. So those are little things that are still unchanged, that still the gaps that still exist between the youth here in the U.S. and also in Burma. But I see, had Burma not been under the military coup, I was very hopeful that things were going to continue to improve because a lot of the, especially from the U.S. and other countries, we can go back and visit Burma. We stay there for months or weeks, and so that allow us to see each other and basically exchange ideas, and that's a good way for us to narrow or close that gaps. And unfortunately, because of the military coup, that's going to set us back for a few years, I think.
Thank you so much. I want to talk to you about things happened after the coup. So since the military coup 2021 happened, many of the youth in Chinland have left their jobs, leave the country. Many of them did civil disobedient movement, CDM, with some even giving their lives for the freedom, as you can see. What role can Chin youth abroad play to support those in Chinland? How can the diaspora contribute to their efforts?
Yeah, so I have the highest regard for our Chin youths that are fighting the military government in Burma because a lot of them gave the ultimate sacrifice by giving their lives. So I have the highest regards for and respect for all of them. And for people that are still brothers and sisters that are still fighting. I think from abroad, what we can do is to pray for them, to pray for our country, and to pray for our people that are fighting this injustice. In practical terms, I know that individuals and groups and religious organizations like CBC USA, groups and churches are sending teams and relief efforts through Mizoram. And I am very encouraged to see that. For a longer term, I think I've always said this to other people in my circle as well. The best that we can do is in our individual spaces where we are, whether if we're a student or whether we're a sushi chef or a business owner, or professional workers like me. The way to help our people is to be the best at who we are, to represent our community and not be ashamed of who we are. Because in the U.S. there are thousands of us. If all of us, wherever we are, either at work or at school, are the best at who we are, and we're living our fullest potential, then our American friends will want to know where we're from, and they'll ask, what's happening in Burma. And the more people know about who we are and what we're struggling, people will be able to take actions based on that. Because if people care enough, then we live in the richest and most powerful country in the world. Things can happen. You know, maybe you might not know it, but if you're a friend with the sons or friends of a congressman or somebody powerful, we may not not know anybody or don't have a lot of influence, but if we are the best and we are living our fullest potential and we are true to ourselves, then I think long term that's good for our people, not just for this current conflict. And sometimes in our community, working when since I'm involved in the Chin community a lot, sometimes because we only are focused on the here and now and make paying our bills, a lot of us cannot take the extra step uh, for instance, to vote or to do something to improve ourselves. And we just stay in our own house, in our own community, and within our own church. And so, if we're just revolving around that chin circle, then that's not gonna help you or our community members. And when we show up at spaces at school or work, we should not be ashamed of who we are. In America, it's very easy to just lose yourself among other Asians, but if you're proud of who we are, and we should be proud of who we are, because we have our own land in Burma, and we're a free and proud people, and so we should never forget that. Um, be the best at who we are, and that way we can influence, hopefully, and affect change to others.
Mhm. That's very good statement. Very good statement. Because you are working in this professional field, you're also senior attorney at your job, and you also dealt with many Chin communities, Chin youth, and so forth before. So I want to talk to you about the unity in our community. So the Spring Revolution has brought both, hope and challenges during the hardship time. And how would you define unity and diversity, particularly among our Chin group and other ethnic groups in Myanmar? And also, what internal issues do you believe need addressing for the revolution's success? What message of hope would you share with these fighting for freedom, justice, and democracy?
So what I say may be controversial. I am, as you know, from Hakka community, and it's unfortunate that, because I follow the news in Burma, and also my community involvement here um, in the U.S., I see that differences. We say uh, unity and diversity, and we are chin in one or something like that. We say that all the time, but in the reality, especially in politics, I think there are still divisions and differences. the way I see it is, speaking of at least in the U.S., and then I'll go back to Burma. In my community involvement, we're just a small community. Even within the Asian community, we're very small, and so people don't really care whether I'm a Hakka, Falam, or that they saw me and they just see an Asian guy, right? And so, when I, as a board president of Chin American Association here in the Dallas Forward area, I try to be mindful of other Chin community members here in the U.S. For instance, when we have Chin National Day, some community members don't like to put CNF flag. And there are, since the 80% of at least the Chin community members in Dallas Fort are Hakka speaking group, they want to put a CNF flag. My personal view is I don't really care. They can put out all kinds of flags or not put at all, because I care about coming us together and including everybody, being inclusive. So that's my personal philosophy, and that can be done in the U.S. Because there's just a few of us. In Burma, I think that's a little bit difficult because the stakes are so much higher. As far as I'm concerned, I think we should not be stuck in the past, and we should not be focusing on the past. I know that even within the Lai community, between Falam and Hakka, people sometimes still talk about the past. And as far as I'm concerned, what happened in the past, it happened, and we should move forward, and we should not even be discussing those issues anymore. I think, like, even the capital or other resources issue. If people want to discuss that, that's fine. They're going to be left behind. I like that our leaders, people that are participating in revolutions, they are playing at a national level. That's what we should do. We should still be mindful of our brothers and sisters, but we should be talking about and participating at a national level in Burma. Working with other ethnic groups, Burma. That should be our focus, not inter-ethnic group and squabbling among ourselves. And people that are focused on that, they're stuck in the past, and that's something that leaders in our community should not be focusing on. I think for the future, at least for the short term, the military situation has to be resolved first. I know that one way or the other, it's going to be resolved. Either the Burmese military will, and the other sides will reach a stalemate, or one side will win and the other side will lose. And so when that happens, hopefully all the acrimonies and all the infightings amongst our community members in Burma can be overcome, and our community members can heal. What was the last state question that you asked? I forgot.
It was pretty much about what message would you hope to share with these fighting for freedom and justice.
So I talked about this a little bit, and from afar, from the comfort of an air conditioned, or right now it's cold, so it's from a heated home. There's really not much that I can say that my brothers and sisters in Chin State or in other parts of Burma that are fighting already don't know. Just want to say that I'm very proud of what you're doing. I have the highest respect for everyone that are participating in CDM, not just militarily fighting, but are doing humanitarian efforts. And fighting the military government, also includes like media, like what you're doing, and helping other people, treating people at the hospital. So I respect all of them. And one last thing I want to say is, because of this is to the people that are fighting, or everyone that are working in this field, because of your work, I have a place to call home in Chin State, in Chinland, in Burma. In America, there's a community called the Hmong. They're from Laos. And after the Vietnam War, a lot of them immigrated to the U.S. there are thousands of them in the United States, but they don't have a home anymore. They're just another Asian group. If they want to go back to Laos, they no longer have any connections. The Laotian government will not let them. So that could be our story if not for the people that are currently fighting. I can say to my friends at work or my people within my circle, I'm proud to be Chin because of all the people that are fighting, and so I'm very proud and encouraged by that.
Thank you so much. Lastly, I know you talk about all of those things. Would you like to add anything else before we end our interview?
Well, thank you for interviewing me and for giving me a chance to talk about my career and encouragement for people in at least in the U.S. If you want to go to law school or if you are interested in becoming a lawyer, please reach out to me. You can Google my name, my full name, or I'm on LinkedIn or on Facebook. One of the things I love about community involvement is mentoring and helping other young Chin Americans succeed in the US. And I would love to see a lot more Chin Americans become lawyers because there are close to 100,000 Chin Americans in the US now, and I can count by hands. There's just a few of us. I know there are a few that are interested in becoming lawyers. For most American people, they're saying, "Oh, we have too many lawyers." That may be true for their communities, but for our communities, we need lawyers just as we need a lot more doctors, engineers. Because I am in this field, if you ever need to talk to somebody about law school or a law career, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you and offer any guidance if I can.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, reach out to him if you want to be a lawyer. Thank you so much, Mrs. Young. We will conclude our interview session from here. Please, for those audience who are listening to our VOC interview, like our page. Please share our interview. We also have Twitter, Instagram, X. We have Telegram. We'll see you the next program when we have. And thank you so much for giving us our time, sir. And we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.